And here in Combs, I'm Mark Stein, in tonight for Sean Hannity. Earlier this week, Sean spoke exclusively with former Senator Fred Thompson about his possible run for president. Here's more of that interview.
So we keep hearing from all the candidates, they all talk about the Reagan mantle. And you see the landscape out there. You've got Mitt Romney and Senator McCain, your friend, and Rudy Giuliani, and they all invoke the name Reagan. You've invoked the name Reagan. Is there something missing in the current crop of candidates that is also inspiring you or making you want to get into this race?
We all invoke the name of Ronald Reagan because we respect him so much, but I don't think any of us are foolish enough to think that we can be Ronald Reagan. There'll never be another Ronald Reagan. I admire him for an additional reason, and that is because he was such a wonderful communicator to the American people. And the reason that he was wasn't because of his acting ability or any techniques or anything like that. It was because he was so believable, and he was so believable because he believed. He believed strongly in what he thought was best for the country, and he believed in the country. And you could see that. The camera really doesn't lie about things like that.
I know all about that.
As you well know.
That's true.
And he was transparent in that regard, and courageous. Now, we can all try to have those qualities without being foolish enough to think that we can be him.
Let's talk about the defining issue of our time. You gave a summary a few minutes ago. This is about, you have young children. It's about your kids. It's about your grandkids. It's about the price that has already been paid and how we have inherited something really terrific, and there's no guarantee that we have it for all generations.
Exactly.
What do you make of the president? You see President Bush, we talk about the attacks you're just thinking about being a candidate that you're going through. You hear the names that the president is called on a daily basis. You see that his approval ratings, he suffered because of the stance and the strong stance he's taken on Iraq. Yet the economy is flourishing, I would argue because of the tax cuts. Why do you think he is perceived so negatively at this moment? Do you think it's all attributable to the war? Do you look at the economy and think that maybe he doesn't get credit for the thriving economy?
I think some of all of it. I think certainly the war. I think that you don't think too much about something that's going well. In the economy, we're enjoying an unprecedented economy here, and by any measure. And yet the emphasis of a lot of people is on the fact that there's some disruption in the economy. When you have a global economy, it's going to be dynamic. It's going to be fluid. You're going to lose a job here and gain 2 jobs over here. You hear about the one job. People are uncertain. People want to raise protectionist walls around us, and do away with open trade and things of that nature. So that's where the emphasis is. The president doesn't get any credit for the fact that he did the same thing Kennedy did in the 1960s, the same thing Reagan did in 1981. And that is lower those tax rates and watch a booming economy come as a result of it. You ought to get a lot of credit for that.
Social issues are prominent in Republican circles and Republican debates. Where does Fred Thompson stand on, specifically on issues of abortion, gay rights, gun control, and spending?
Well, let's take those in reverse order. I've always been a spending hawk. I think spending and bigger government go hand in hand. I think it's like taxes. It's something that you constantly have to fight because the interest of the politicians is in more spending because it helps you continue your career, and politics has become a career nowadays, and Republicans have been guilty of that just like Democrats have. We've got to do a better job of that. Government continues to grow at a time when we're proving that government just can't seem to get its act together and do some things right. Our computers don't talk to each other in some of our intelligence functions. People are in over their heads. We have an outmoded civil service system that doesn't bring the right kind of people in and doesn't get rid of the wrong kinds of people. All of that. So we need to cut back there and do a better job of streamlining our government and get rid of some of these layers that we've got that's making it more difficult to operate in the way the government needs to operate. In terms of gun control, I guess I'm as close to 100% on that in my record in Congress of anyone. I'm a big advocate of the Second Amendment, and anybody who watches my political career can attest to that. As far as gay rights are concerned, I looked at this New Hampshire decision by the New Hampshire state legislature, And it concerned me when they passed the bill. Number one, this wasn't some renegade judge. This was a state legislature, and they made a decision to support civil unions. I look at it, and it seems like it's really a marriage bill. It gives you all the rights of marriage. I believe in federalism. I believe, generally speaking, that federal government ought to concentrate on the enumerated powers and do the things it's supposed to be doing, as it's not doing, as we were just talking about in many cases, and leave other things to the states. Places of innovation and competition, welfare reform came out of that exercise. But on something like this, you've got something called full faith and credit. I think what is going to happen now is that people are going to take these state laws and go to other places that doesn't have these state laws and strongly oppose them, say we deserve full faith and credit. There's an exception to that. The lawyers will tell you that if it's contrary to the home state's public policy, you know, they can get around it. I think federal judges probably are going to start saying, no, the 14th Amendment requires you to give them full faith and credit. And you're going to have that situation going on around the country. Therefore, I think that it's appropriate subject for a constitutional amendment, but one that calls for leaving it up to the states to make these decisions themselves, but not giving full faith and credit. If you don't have it in your state, nobody else can impose it on you. Mm-hmm. Seems to me like that's a fair solution. I am pro-life. I have 100% voting record on the pro-life issues that come there. I must say, I've told people this before. Intellectually and politically and from a policy standpoint, I've always voted that way ever since I've been in the Senate and felt that way. I must say it's meant a little bit more to me since I saw the first sonogram of my little 3-year-old daughter. I'll never feel the same way about that again. So not only is it in my head, it's in my heart now. And again, I think that we ought to try to be tolerant of various views on this thing. But in terms of government policy, we ought to do what we can to discourage that. It's a bad thing. I think the Supreme Court was absolutely right in this abortion decision, the partial birth abortion decision. The very idea that we could even have a debate over whether or not that atrocious activity should be allowable is very unfortunate, to say the least. I think the president has limited responsibility in that, but people deserve to know how you feel, and that's how I feel about it.
Fred Thompson, coming up on the other side of the break, we'll have more reaction to last night's Republican debate without Fred, plus big screen actor Don Cheadle.